Afternoon, you guys. My name is Christani Jen, and in today's video I will be talking to you guys about various topics. The first topic I'm going to be talking to you guys about is, should you start a YouTube channel? And I'm going to use my story for which to give you a reason of inspiration. So I'm going to start from the year 2005. So since 2005, YouTube was launched since 2005, and in 2005 I was in 11th grade, so I must have been 17 or 16. I could remember that I would basically use YouTube for videos. I would use it for basically use YouTube for watching videos. I would use it for looking at other YouTubers that were just starting out in 2005, and it was a lot different back then. The content used to be 10 minutes per clip, so that if you had long media, you would have to put it by 10-minute increments. So things were a lot different with YouTube back then. So, but even then, I noticed that it was still something that I was very interested in. You see, in 2004, Facebook had launched, and it was called The Facebook. And at that time, it was, and later on, it was known for doing things like school fights, doing irresponsible things. So I didn't want anything to do with any of that stuff. So that's why I had an aversion to any type of social media. I didn't want to be online at all. I have, for instance, I have a very serious problem when it comes to my reputation, and like anything getting like in between my reputation, especially when it comes to school, my studies, or my work, right? So I didn't want to be associated with Facebook because of all the stuff I heard about it and all the trouble kids were getting into at the time. So then what ended up happening is, fast forward to 2020, one of my cousins called me one day and he asked me if Shaquille O'Neal had died. So he told me that he had heard that he was researching online and he saw that Shaquille O'Neal was pronounced dead. So I went to Google and I found out it was a hoax. It was not true. It was fortunately just a hoax. But in 2020, January 26th, he called me and he asked me if Kobe Bryant had died. So thinking it was a hoax, I basically went to Google to just check it out, and lo and behold, he had actually passed away, unfortunately. He actually passed away, unfortunately. And so all I could remember was, at that time, I was very concerned. It struck me because Kobe Bryant died with his dream fulfilled, and he was a great basketball player. And after his death, I just kept hearing things about how he had been such a hard worker, he had such a great work ethic, and it struck me that if I didn't do something about my dream of being on YouTube, then I would never be on it at all, right? Because if Kobe Bryant can die, I can die any day, because it's Kobe Bryant, you know? If he could pass away and he was so young, what could happen to me? And this dream that I had would not be fulfilled. So it kind of made me sad, but it made me want to take action. So 2 months later, around March, I uploaded my first video. With my first video, at first I just did it with this phone, with one of my Android phones, my old ones, my old one, and I would do it vertically. Eventually I would do it more horizontally to fit the YouTube parameters. So I just started with my phone, which means, you guys, if you want to start YouTube, start with your phone, right? So I started with my phone, and one of the first videos I ever did was a translation of a message from Leslie Thomas, right? I really liked that message, so I decided to translate it and do a YouTube video on it. So I was really proud of myself, and it's something I'm still proud of myself to this day. So I would say you're thinking about joining YouTube, but you're not sure if you should. Well, if this is a good deciding factor for you, I think you should do it, right? Why do I think you should do it? I think you should do it because in my own experience, there is only one you. So if you want to do a topic, and the topic is something most people do it all the time, like if it's fashion or if it's sports, and you feel like everyone does that, well, all I have to say is that you're unique. And just because there's 1,000 videos on fashion or sports doesn't mean you can't put your own spin on it, right? Because there's a way you add to it, it makes it unique, and somebody's gonna resonate with you in a way that they don't resonate with other people. So I would say go for it and go ahead and start your YouTube channel and learn. What I actually learned along the way is that as you're doing it, you're learning along the way, right? So I'm glad I didn't wait to be perfect and that I was inspired by Kobe, because when I started, I just started with my phone, and as the weeks kept, as I started with my phone, and as the weeks started getting more and more, I noticed that I would learn what didn't work, and I would learn what would work, and I would keep working at it until it did work, right? So all I have to tell you is keep at it, keep doing videos, being consistent, and you will strike gold eventually, right? And you will find something, especially if you're somebody that loves creativity like I do, then you're definitely gonna find a spot on YouTube, because it's like it's like a niche you're gonna pick for yourself, and it's gonna be expressive of what you want to do, right? So I think it's perfect, right? And people monetizing off a career and making a valid career out of it, it's a perfect combination. So the next thing I want to go into is fall, right? So right now it's 11:44. So right now it's September 3rd, and I don't care what anybody says, fall is already here, right? It's getting colder. The days are getting like a little bit like chilly, right? They're getting a little bit chilly. So I'm really excited about fall coming. It's already here, in my opinion. It's already here. Why am I excited for fall? I'm excited for fall because you can smell pumpkin spice latte, the small town fever, like when like in 14th Street, I know there's this little market that does things with like cider. They do local fall eats, like hot chocolate, and they just do a bunch of fall things that would be good for a date idea. So let me get into it, right? So if you were trying to do a date for fall, let me give you guys some date ideas, right? A log cabin would be nice, right? You could go to the Poconos. A log cabin would be nice. Another one would be if you would go to the small towns and get cider. You could go to apple orchard, you could go to a peach orchard, you could go to a winery if you drink, or you could go to a place where Halloween town, something like that, right? Or Christmas town if you're gonna wait till Christmas, right? Or to get a tree and stuff like that. Those small towns, right? And although I don't celebrate Halloween like that, Halloween's around the corner for those that do celebrate it, I do, even though I do not celebrate Halloween at all, love it when the kids have the cute little costumes, those pumpkin costumes or whatever costumes they choose, and they're like very cute and small. I love stuff like that, right? So basically, fall is just an amazing season. The leaves are starting to get like red, brown, yellows, all those colors. It's beautiful, right? And then Thanksgiving is coming around the corner. So for Thanksgiving, I'm gonna do a bunch of sides. I'm gonna be simple, but I'm gonna order a bunch of sides, right? It's gonna be like 10-course meal, 8-course meal, but it's like I'm gonna try my best to use to cook when I'm cooking, because I am on a diet. I am exercising, right? I'm trying to not cook with a lot of salt, sugar, and stuff like that. So even though it's Thanksgiving, to not use a lot of butter, not use a lot of oil, to limit the amount of grease I use on my food, and to basically eat stuff of quality and not too much food, right? I'm on a lifestyle change, right? So for this fall, I'm completely going to go all out for Thanksgiving, right? And then afterwards you have Christmas. I'm going to clean my house from top to the bottom. I'm going to start putting up the lights on the Christmas tree and all the decorations by November, end of September, because every time I wait till it's around December, I never do it, and Christmas passes and I end up not putting up the lights in the Christmas tree and doing all the decorations and getting into the holiday spirit, right? Because guys, if you think about it, what's the spirit of the holidays, right, without decorating and getting into the spirit, right? I know we went through COVID, but holidays is what you make it, right? So if you get into it and you decorate your house from top to bottom and you do all the dinner plans, you're in essence giving it the Christmas spirit. You're giving it the holiday spirit, right? So fall represents the holidays is coming on. It represents pumpkin spice latte, it represents the cornucopia, it represents everything that I love, right? You could smell fall. It's delicious. It's like butter pecan ice cream. It's like pumpkin pie. It's like apple pie. It's like a bunch of peach cobbler with vanilla ice cream. It's like the smells, scents, and sounds. You have Bath and Body. They're gonna do their new collection for the upcoming holiday. So I can't wait for that. When I go to Bath and Body, is what they're gonna do for the display, right? Because they go all out for the holidays, right? So I'm really looking forward to the holidays. I can't lie, right? I'm excited. I'm ecstatic. They're like savings and everything, and it's just gonna be amazing, right? Because fall is here, right? I don't care what anybody says, right? So then, you guys, what's the next topic I want to get into is Bridgerton. So right now I'm gonna forecast Bridgerton because I actually saw 4 to 5 episodes of it, and from what I saw, I actually really like what I saw. But I'm just gonna do my expectations, what I think about it, and a little bit short synopsis, and then later on I will do a longer, more drawn out synopsis, like 30 to 40 minutes, maybe to an hour, where I uncover every parts of it, right? But I will do that next time or upcoming this month. So Bridgerton, from what I have researched, because I did some research, it's in the Regency era, right? So when I think about Bridgerton, I'm reminded of Jane Austen's Emma, Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, because of the way that they dress, right? I'm reminded of that era. And when I look at Bridgerton, a lot of the themes match what I read in Pride and Prejudice, right? And what I would read in any Jane Austen novel. So what you need to know is that Bridgerton focuses on matchmaking and getting the young woman married, right? So if I say any names wrong, please forgive me, because I'm still learning, and it's like, to get, sometimes I do make mistakes with names, right? So the main character's name is Daphne Bridgerton, and the main lead guy, who's the antagonistic lover, is the Duke, or Lord Hastings, or Simon Basset. I believe that's what they call him, Simon Basset, right? Simon Basset. And if I don't get anything, if I don't get something correct, I will make sure to write it down in the description, and I will get it correct. Right? I will get everything correct in the description. So then, when I'm looking at the reviews and I'm looking at to see how to summarize this for you guys, I see they compare it to Gossip Girl, which I never really watched, but it has something about the Gossip Girls in which there's somebody that's gossiping, and that's Lady Whistledown, right? Lady Whistledown is the paper in the town that's locally there, and every cycle period, this local paper lets out the most steamiest gossip, the most like gossip, like any interesting tidbits, it lets it out, and it's written in the town paper, right? So think Gossip Girl when you think of that, right? Remember Gossip Girl when she kept signing off XOXO, but they would not know who the Gossip Girl is, I guess, until the end. I never really watched Gossip Girl, so I don't know, right? So then they also compare it to Downton Abbey, and from what I remember of Downton Abbey, I remember Downton Abbey was a real British show, and I remember I was kind of intimidated by it because of how British it seemed, right? I was kind of intimidated by it, right? So I never got to watch it, but maybe one of these days I would watch it, right? I don't know, right? But I've heard of Downton Abbey before, right? So then, and they also compared to Jane Austen, which I also seen the comparisons. So in Bridgerton, Daphne Bridgerton is there's the house of Bridgerton, right? There's two families, Featherington. Is it Featherington or Featherington? Featherington. Let me look that up for you, right? And they have 3 daughters, and then there's the Featherington, I believe the other family is called, and there's Bridgerton with Daphne, and there's a whole bunch of other ladies that are coming into society, and the thing is, they have to have a ball and meet in front of the Queen Charlotte. And when Daphne, which comes from that Bridgerton, right, from the Bridgerton household, she goes to to present in front of the Queen. The Queen calls her a diamond, right, something to that effect, and she is deemed the most beautiful, a diamond, right? So she gets the Queen's favor. The Queen really likes her, and the others don't get the Queen's favor, right? So when you get the Queen's favor, Lady Whistledown, which is the gossip column in the town, lets this out in the news the next time the news comes around, right? So she gets favor as a result of this, right? So all the suitors want to be with her, and all the girls want to be her, right? So she's the girl to beat. So her brother, who is sleeping with the opera house, one of the ladies, the main lady in the opera house, the opera, this woman that sings the opera, he doesn't want like young guys to come at his sister, right? Because he knows what goes on with guys and their thoughts when it comes to girls, right? Because he's been sleeping with the woman that does opera in the series, right? So he knows all the stuff that guys think and what's going on and how they're obsessed with girls' bodies. So he doesn't want them to go near his sister, right? So he becomes unreasonable. And one of the things I found that's kind of I didn't like is that he was sleeping around with the lady that does the opera, and then he basically wanted to treat his sister like gold, and that's one of the behaviors I really don't like, right? Because it's hypocritical, it's misogynistic, And if you want to treat all like your sister right, you should treat all women right. So I found out that's one point I didn't like about Bridgerton, that it's like there was a double standard with the men. Another thing I didn't like about it is that the men, they were sleeping around a great deal, and it's like the women, they didn't even know what the birds and the bees were about, right? So when I think about that, I think about like you're sending your innocent daughter to be married to one of these men. It's like you're basically putting her in the hands of a predator, basically, because he knows everything and she doesn't know, like she doesn't even know what these things mean, right? Which means you're basically putting her at the hands of somebody who, if she doesn't pick right, could mistreat her, could abuse her, could do a bunch of things to her, right? So I really didn't like that, right? Because it feels like the girls, that them not knowing what the birds and the bees is, you know, sleeping around and stuff like that, they didn't know anything about that at all, which is very I really didn't like that, right? But I know it's a novel, so for that sake I gave it a pass, because it is a novel in old days, and that's depicting the olden days, and that's just how it was back then, right? So I let that go. Now when the brother becomes overzealous, he doesn't want anyone to talk to his sister, right? The suitors are coming, they're bringing flowers, but he doesn't want any of them to talk to it, because he knows what goes in young men's minds. So then he's being impossible, and then there's this older gentleman that comes in, and the older gentleman, he's been fond of her since the beginning, right? But he's kind of disgusting to look at, and he just gives her the creeps and stuff. And so when he comes in, the brother says, yes, I want you, right? Because the brother feels like he's less threatening, that he's not young, he wouldn't be able to treat his sister like he treated the lady in the opera house, right? So then the sister, she's beginning to find everything he's doing is impossible. He's like being impossible, right? So one of the days when she's at one of the balls, and by the way, when they're at the balls, it's like when they're dancing, each time a guy asks you to dance, that means they want to court with you, right? They find you interesting, and they would like to court you and possibly marry you. So then she bumps into Lord Hastings, or the Duke, or Simon Basset, who is the main antagonistic lover of the thing. He's the main black guy that you guys see always along with the white woman lead, the female white lead, right? So it's like they meet and they bump into each other, and they start talking to each other, and you could tell that it's an antagonistic lovers trope going on, right? And I'm like, I like it, because it's like it gives you, it's like I want to see where this is going, right? I want to see where this is going. So then what ends up happening is that eventually, though they don't really hit it off at first, there's a scene that happens where they learn she has to basically, him and Simon Basset and Daphne Bridgerton make a pact, right? The pact is that they want the old creepy guy to get off her back so that she could get a young suitor, which her brother doesn't even want to hear about, right? But the way that they're going to do it is that Simon Basset, the Duke, Lord Hastings, must pretend that he's like smitten, or he's in love with Daphne. And so once the brother is kind of like, okay, he doesn't want, because Simon Basset and the brother are they're good friends, right? And since they're good friends, he knows about what he does with girls on the side, and the brother knows that he would never want him to be with his sister, right? So the Simon Basset knows he wouldn't want him to be with the sister, because he wants his sister to be treated like gold, and he knows that he's a bachelor, right? He wants to be a bachelor for life, and he doesn't want to marry. So then when they get this pairing, the brother is like, what is this, right? You do know he doesn't want to get married and stuff, right? But they're keeping up with the charade, and it's basically something that once the brother sees that this is a bad match, they're gonna break it off, and then the plan is that the brother will allow her to marry a younger suitor who's to her liking, right? Because she doesn't want to be with the old creepy guy, because the brother's misjudging the older guy who's a complete creep, because he doesn't want her to be with a younger man who he knows that all of them, what they're all into, because he's into sleeping around, right? So he doesn't want his sister to be anybody young, because he knows what goes through men's minds, right? It's kind of like if I had a brother and he had a bunch of college friends his age, and he knows what they think about girls, he would probably want me to be with an older, more mature man, even though I definitely don't like him like that, because he feels like he's being overprotective, like he's being overprotective over Daphne, right? And because he's being so overprotective, he's not seeing how the older gentleman is kind of a real creep, right? And how he's underestimating the other guys. He's not giving them a chance, and he's not letting her live her life, right? So then what's interesting about the film is, I have to say that the cinematography is very good. The colors are very pleasant to watch, right? It's very pleasant to watch, right? I have to say, very cooling on the eye, right? The patterns, and though I don't really take to those type of like the eras of those dresses, they look like the baby doll type of fashion. I don't really like that type of fashion, but I really love the colors and the patterns that I use for the houses, for the walls. It's very cooling to the eye, and it's very pleasant to look at, right? And then finally, you guys, I'm gonna get into the next topic, which is revenge and getting even, right? Revenge and getting even. So the first thing I'm going to say with revenge and getting even is that it doesn't pay to exact vengeance, right? Better you leave it up to the Lord Almighty and let him do what he can, and you get the best possible outcome with everything ending up the way that it should, right? Rather than you taking vengeance into your hands, right? Why do I say this? I'm saying this because when you take exact revenge on someone, what ends up happening is that you get your recompense. You got your reward already, right? You hurt them, you made them feel bad, you exacted what you need to exact, but you are not the bigger person, right? And I think no matter how you want to say vengeance feels good, at the end of the day, you don't want to stoop that low, right? You don't want to be that person, right? So I'd say better to apply to forgive and to forget, right? Let me explain. It's best not to exact revenge. Why? It's best to forgive and forget, right? So I've heard of certain people, it's been 20 years, it's been 30 years, and they're still drowning on the same cup of water from 20 years ago, right? Somebody hurt them, and because of the hurt, because somebody hurt them and the pain that they've been through, they're still focused on something that happened 20 to 30 years before, right? You don't want to be that person that is focused on what somebody did 10 years ago, 12 years ago, a year ago, right? You don't want to be that person, right? Yet even, I would even say, aside from forgiveness basically what it does, it gives you freedom, it gives you peace, right? It releases you, it makes you free to move on and move forward. So the next thing I would say is, another thing yet I notice is, a lot of times you'll forgive, but then the person will have a space in your head. They'll rent a space in your head. They'll rent head space. And what do I mean by this? What I mean is that you'll be successful, and then what will end up happening is you'll be like, oh, I can't wait to show them. Look at me now. Look at me. I'm successful now. I'm gonna prove this to them, I'm gonna prove it. I think you're still in bondage when you think like that. I remember there was one time I was watching this really cute Instagram reel, and there was this young, but this one's kind of cute, right? So there was this guy, and he was talking, he was like doing a Andrew Tate kind of thing, and it was like he was saying how it's been 11 years since this girl broke his heart, and so he got successful because he had asked her, I guess she turned him down the first time, and so he went, he bulked up, he went, he got a job, he got a really excellent job, and when she saw him, she was like head over heels for him, right? And then he was like, you know what, he still showed her, he said, he was like, well, I don't want you, and it was basically to show her, to get her back, right? And the whole time he's talking about how he got her back, and you could still tell that he actually really liked the girl, right? So I'm thinking to myself, that's kind of stupid. Why don't you just date the girl, right? But what I'm saying about that, that's one harmless example. And he was saying, well, I showed her, and I showed her and stuff like that, to show that he had gotten more successful, and that he now he was what every girl wanted, and he just wanted to bulk up and get a great career just to do that, right? So I think when you let somebody control your headspace that much, that's really detrimental, right? The whole time the girl's probably in his head, I'm gonna get back at her, I'm gonna get back at her. And it's like, sometimes when that's how you approach things, it's like the person still has control over it, whether you want to admit it or not, right? So that one was a harmless example, and I think when you look at it, it was silly because you could clearly tell that he still had feelings for the girl, right? And if he wanted to, he could still get back with the girl, but he was just being stubborn, and he was trying to get back at her for basically not choosing him, right? So basically, I think revenge and getting even, there's no place for it, right? And basically that you should forgive and forget and let things rub off your back, right? Let them bounce off your back, and forgive and forget, right? And if you have any vengeance you want exact, pray about it and let the Lord handle it. Why? Because when he handles it, all parties will get all the right recompense, and it will reconcile in a way where he gets all the glory, right? So what do I mean by this? So when God exacts revenge, he will make it in a way where he gets all the glory, where the things, the loose ends, all the loose ends will be tied, and he will make sure everything gets back onto the best situation that can be, right? So then you guys, that's basically it for today. My name is Christine. Have a lovely day, you guys. I was just talking to you guys today about having a YouTube channel, number one. Then I spoke to you guys about the many great things about fall, and then finally I went into Bridgerton, a forecast, and a little bit synopsis gist, and then finally I went to revenge and vengeance and getting even, right? So then you guys, that's my video for today. My name is Christine. Have a lovely day, you guys. Thanks. See ya.